There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. We are here today with Craig Witt. He is the EVP of Global Sales, Marketing, and Go-to-Market at MotionPoint. Craig, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to chat with you today, Craig. We're going to be talking about globalization in content marketing and how companies that are entering new markets in different parts of the world, how they need to be thinking about their content as it gets translated into new markets. But before we get into that, you guys are, MotionPoint is doing some incredible things in this space. Can you explain what MotionPoint is for listeners that aren't familiar with you guys and really help them understand why you're the guy to be talking about this?
Sure. So thank you. What MotionPoint does and what we set out to do is solve the operational complexity and cost of websites and digital channel localization. We have technology and workflows from a turnkey perspective that are built to translate, deploy, and operate multilingual websites. And the goal there is to really optimize the customer experience across all of their digital channels.
I love it. So Craig, we're just going to dive right in. We've got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about. But when it comes to if you're going into a new market, we're going to first start with, talking about written content. So as we're thinking about globalization of handling the translation and localizing content, you talked earlier about a need for a style guide, having a glossary. Can you talk to us, you really dive into specifics of what do brands need to be thinking about when they first start to kind of take on content marketing in a part of the world that is foreign to them?
Sure. My experiences that I've had on this topic is really working backwards. So it's the market that you're targeting to go into, understanding all the appropriate cultural nuances, and making sure that if you're using, as an example, English as your origin site or origin for just content in specific, not necessarily a website, that you work backwards and create style guides, create the appropriate glossary for how you want certain phrases, certain segments, certain words to be translated and represented. Mm-hmm. And also looking at it from a branding perspective and making sure that there's definitions on how you want that brand represented locally so you get the proper experience and engagement by the targeted audience in those local markets.
Got it. When someone is trying to figure out what those cultural nuances are, what have you found for the content marketer that is tasked with this undertaking? Are there things they can do? Are there resources they can leverage to really kind of inundate themselves in understanding, like, okay, who are these folks that we're actually trying to reach? How can I learn the cultural nuances? Is it a matter of actually going there, doing a site visit, or are there so many resources online that you can do it virtually? What are your thoughts there, Craig?
Yeah, great question. So there's resources online that you can study and try to understand those types of things, how the content should be received to be appropriately, how it should be written to be appropriately received. But you can go to organizations that are very similar to what MotionPoint does, who has the years and years of experience and assisting brands go into new markets and getting that intel on how it's been done for like brands, like products, and get the proper guidance. That's what we do for our customers, and we've gone into every market available worldwide and really give that proper guidance. But you don't have to just get it from MotionPoint. You can get it online. You can get in from other resources that are available to understand that. I've actually also seen to where there have been small sample groups that go before the content is getting written and spend some time speaking with the target audience that they're trying to engage with. And not just so when you expand from the written content, also understanding what digital channels are important to them, how they want to consume the content across those channels, and then if they're interested in video, audio, and other forms of displaying content.
Got it. All right. Another thing that you and I talked about, Craig, offline, we talked about, how so many people, they put so much effort and they focus on, all different types of optimization and they put just so much emphasis on their origin site, but they tend to neglect the translated content that they've created. Can you speak to that a bit and why that's a mistake that people need to avoid, especially as they're approaching of creating content in new markets?
Yeah, it's a very common mistake that's made, and there's certain ways from a design perspective in the way that you're looking at how your content and what channels it's going to reside on. But believe it or not, James, most of the time it's forgotten. It's forgotten that so much emphasis is being put on the origin side that they forget about the other channels and making sure that the content is written and put into the right format that really will get the highest level of SEO. And it's really bringing it to their attention that, hey, it's important. Just because your origin site has been optimized for the search engine doesn't mean that your translated website or your translated channels will behave in the same fashion. And we've worked with organizations and consulted, and then there's technologies out there that can be put into place to ensure that all translated websites receive the same level of planning and quality that the origin does.
I'm really ashamed to admit this, but we went the first 3 years of our business without having a single case study. I know, pretty ridiculous. So I finally broke down and had Kappa 99 create a couple case studies for us. We sent them some examples of other case studies that we really liked. Then we sent them the stories and the results that we wanted to include. After a few rounds of revisions, we now have 2 beautifully designed case studies that we send to pretty much every one of our prospects. When you sign up with Kappa 99, you get unlimited graphic design and unlimited revisions for just $399 a month. Head over to b2bgrowthshow.com/design and try out their 15-day free trial. That's b2bgrowthshow.com/design. Let's get back to this interview.
So Craig, we were talking offline, we were talking about this idea of hiring local resources to translate content, which I could totally see why that makes sense. You want somebody local to that area that can understand some cultural nuance but talk to us about why that's actually not the direction that you want to go when you're thinking about how you're going to get this content translated.
Sure. What happens is the brand becomes very inconsistently represented across the market. So if you work backwards, the translation will probably be spot on, the localization will be spot on, but what gets lost is the actual representation, the consistency of the representation of the brand. So through my experiences in working with companies that have been, tackling this big challenge, is that we start with the origin. We start with, here's the definition, here's how we want our brand to be represented in specific markets, and then work towards those markets with the translation and localization being done in that fashion. A lot of companies out there to say, hey, we'll just hire employees. We'll put them in the markets. We'll have them look at some of our content. We'll have them translate the content. but they don't have the full picture view of how that brand needs to be consistently represented across all markets.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Not having, hiring someone local, not having that context is not necessarily something I would have considered. So I appreciate you sharing that, Craig.
Yep.
This last piece that I want to talk about has to do with video. It seems like everybody and their mom wants to talk about video and the importance of video and how you need to be doing video. So when it comes to entering a new market and you need video content that, is translated to the local market that you're trying to serve, what do people need to be thinking about, as they approach video content in foreign markets?
So my experience is that it's very similar to the written content, but they also need to take into consideration, because it also becomes very expensive if you have your origin video and then also want to produce locally the video just to meet the appropriate cultural nuances. What we have found, and there's alternatives in the marketplace, it just so happens that MotionPoint addresses this, is to be able to take the video from the inception. It can be on the origin website, or it can be some other digital channel. Be able to take that, translate the closed caption piece, translate, of course, the audio, and then based on what is put into the glossary and the style guides, actually translate and adjust the images that will be represented in the local markets. It's a hard problem to solve, and it really takes a lot of thought and preparation, and it really takes technology to do it.
Got it. So the video that you're talking about is video that has stock imagery. So it's not like a talking head video or, overly, like produced videos. It's you're talking about video that can have background content that can be replaced so that it's contextual to the area.
Exactly.
Got it. Wonderful. Awesome, Craig. Well, I appreciate you sharing this insight with us. This is not something I'm not sure that we've ever talked about this on B2B Growth. So I appreciate you coming in and sharing your wisdom with us. If there's somebody listening, they want to stay connected with you, they want to learn more about MotionPoint, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Sure. So I can be found on LinkedIn. Name again is Craig, Craig, Witt, Witt. Very active on LinkedIn. Share a lot of thought leadership content, and then of course there's some there with MotionPoint, but also MotionPoint has a LinkedIn homepage, landing page, and then our website is full of really good thought leadership content, and that's just the MotionPoint.com.
Awesome, Craig. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, James.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B Growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B Growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.